Hello, this is Vesa Loikas from Finland, and I'm here with my colleagues in the Arcanum, and I'm going to present a little presentation called Creating Impact with Large-Scale Photographs. And how this came about was that Glenn Guy was suggesting that we'll do some group hangouts, and I figured I could use things that I've learned and share them with the group. And that's how this topic came about, because it's been a passion of mine to create these big prints and small prints and get them in front of people. And so now we have a very international group here. And let's see, if we start from the left, there's Andy, and you can just say a couple words and introduce yourself. Go ahead, Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Hall, originally from near Birmingham in England, but now live in Greenock, Scotland. And I'm just back from a big trip to Iceland, Florida, and New York. So photographically, what I'm working on at the moment is just processing all of that.
Very good. And then there's Gavin. Go ahead.
Hello, how you going? My name is Gavin Jackson from Canberra, Australia. I run a small photography business here in Canberra. I'm also a full-time software engineer, so the photography is really a passion of mine. I really enjoy shooting. I've got two kids. I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I chase them around with the camera all the time. Spent a lot of time in Krakenbach, New South Wales, up in the Australian Alps, and I really enjoy shooting the outdoors. So that's pretty much where I'm at photographically. Yeah, I'm fascinated by this large-scale printing topic that you're talking about. It's something that I'm really interested in learning more about.
Very good. Then there's Guy. Hello.
Hi, and yeah, Guy Parks from Lee, northern New Zealand, and getting towards the level 19 in the Arcanum, and looking to get my last sort of works together. And part of that has been doing printing for the first time. Just got my own printer, I think. So this presentation is just perfect timing to look at doing something bigger.
Very good. Then there's Jens.
Yes, my name is Jens Hauser, and I live in Sweden, or the southern part of Sweden. Now, I don't know, I'm focusing on nature and wildlife, I would say. At the moment, it's mostly big cats, because I'm trying to photograph all the big cats like lions and tigers. And I've just been to Borneo and trying to find the clouded leopard, but no, I didn't. So I have to go back and try to merge them. And I do some printing as well, as you see from behind me here.
Yes, I can see that. Very good.
And I usually print black and white, and I have decided to print a bit more this year, so not just to keep them on the computer, but show them a bit more and appreciate them a bit more.
Very good. Hello, Jussi.
Hello.
You're on.
I'm on. What's the question?
Sorry, where are you from? Where are you at?
Who am I? Where am I from? And where am I at? My name is Jussi Lyons. I'm from Aberdeen, Scotland, and I have a Finnish name as well. So, for those of you who are confused, I'm currently in Kaohsiung, in the southern tip of Taiwan, and I am a landscape kind of a landscape photograph, everything kind of guy.
Excellent. And then there's Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Crossan. I'm from Inverurie in Scotland, which is just north of Aberdeen. I'm currently in my second Sphere 2 with Les Imgrind, which is a wildlife, nature and wildlife sphere. Recently finished my first Sphere 2 with Glenn in the landscapes, and Glenn and I had a discussion regarding printing, so that's why I'm here.
Very good. And then there's Torben.
Yeah, hi, I'm Torben Kühlev, and originally from Germany, but living in northern Norway, a small town called Bjørnevatn. It's near Kirkenes, and it's on top of Norway, so where Norway meets Russia and Finland. And I'm currently in Glen Guy's theater, and doing mostly landscape photography and some Northern Lights photography in winter.
Very good. So let's start with the presentation. I'm gonna do some screen sharing here, and let's see. You can tell me if you can see the screen. My screen.
Yep, I can see it.
Yep.
Yep.
Very good. Let's go forward. What I prepared for you is basically a slideshow that I have some videos to and images and text, but I'm gonna talk over all the topics, and please feel free to interrupt at any time and ask questions, and let's go from there. I'm gonna see if I hide that. Okay, so this is a topic, creating impact with large-scale photographs, and I really had to start from the beginning, which is actually when I started wondering, like, what is the motivation or what is the history why I want to do this. I mean, it's like, for me, it's like obvious. I'm like, of course I want to show my photography and make it big and show it to the people, but I was thinking of my childhood, and I've looked for a couple of photographs. In Finland, we have these wall art rugs that we always had hanging in the house, and other people had them too, and they were very respected pieces of interior design, and they were mostly kind of graphical patterns and not really photographic in a sense. They were very textural because they're usually made out of wool, and so here's an image of me in front of one, and then on the right there's a family photograph of us, and obviously our family was placed in front of the wall rug called Ryjy. And I think that's one of the reasons. It's obvious, not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons I kind of think of these large-scale photographs on the wall as something of a value, and I liked kind of the presence of them because they're big and bold in a sense, and even if you're not looking at them, you kind of feel them. I think that's the big difference with when you're actually showing, let's say, like small prints. People are concentrating on them and they're looking at them, but these large-scale photographs are in the space all the time, and they kind of create the space or create the feeling in the space. So that's kind of my history, and here's a little bit more about my history in printing. And I was born in 1968, and I started photographing when I was in my teens, and in the 1980s I did some darkroom prints on my own, and that's when I actually started photography. And on the right upper picture is actually from the first roll of film that I shot, and my sister, who was studying photography, and I was influenced by her, she made a printout of it, which I still have, and it's actually behind me right now, but here's an image of it. And now on the bottom right there's my recent work, and there's the very similar photograph, and the photo was taken last year, so it looks like I'm really still doing the same thing that I was doing when I was in my teens. And then in the 1990s, I remember buying the first Epson, affordable Epson inkjet printer that cost about $400 US. I was studying in the States in Louisiana at the time. And I was so excited. I did all these A4 size prints. And the problem was the inks weren't up to the snuff at that point yet, and they started fading away usually within a few weeks. So it was really a kind of a bummer. And but then in the 2000s, the ink technology and the size of the printers became more affordable, and I think I got my first A3 size printer at that point. And then now I'm really started when I started doing photography more recently, and so in the 2010s, actually now in my 40s, last few years, I started doing canvas prints, aluminum, wood, metallic papers, and also the ink technology got much better, and now there's pigment inks in the inkjet printers which are carbon based, so they last a long time, and even the kind of the regular printers, they don't fade as fast. And then there are these UV printers, ultraviolet printers, that actually they use that ultraviolet light to print, and that's what makes them non-fading, and that's mostly what these large-scale printers or prints were used with. And here are some of the substrates that I've used. And like here, I'm mentioning all the different types of photographic papers and textured papers, and kozo paper, which is this Japanese paper, and then wallpaper, metallic papers, aluminum canvas, fabric, plywood. I just recently did some printing on plywood, and I outsourced it. I didn't do it on myself, but I can show some examples. And some there are experiments, and some of them fail. I mean, not every topic fits the certain type of a photograph. You have to kind of know how the photograph behaves with a certain material to get the most out of it. So what I've got here for you, I have basically 2 case studies that I have a lot of experience with. In 2014, I did a gallery show where I was showing aluminum prints, and then in 2016, which is this year, I got a chance to do a big office interior gallery show, in a sense. I mean, it's a permanent place for people to work, and I got 40 of my images there. So these 2 topics I cover here, and let's start with the gallery show, and kind of again like my motivations, like I said before, that I guess I'm my history, and then I'm thinking back to the caveman. I mean, they were painting the walls of the caves. I mean, I think this is a very similar thing. It's expression of myself, and somehow trying to communicate and have impact on people through my images. And then the other cool thing is, like, every time I do a project like this, I mean, there's just so much you learn, and it's so at the end, it's always, no matter what, I mean, there's always something that there's new things or something new that you learn. And then the artistic growth, I mean, you just start looking at images differently in a good way. I mean, you have a more holistic view of prints and scenes and etc. So that there's a lot of good that comes out of printing in general and printing in large format. And And here's a comparison of these two different ways of getting your stuff to the people: a gallery show and the office interior. And there's some similarities and some differences, and I guess the biggest is that on a gallery show that you're actually preparing yourself, you have the entire artistic freedom to do what you want, because especially if you're the person who's paying for it and producing it, and like I was. So there's no intermediate people that you have to talk with, like what should you put there. So that is a big thing. And then when you're dealing with this office interior, the images were actually, I submitted images and they picked some of them, and then I submitted some more and they picked some more, and so it's a little bit of more of a back and forth with the people who actually pay for it. And then the gallery is obviously, it's a temporary show. My show lasted a month, and then office interior, it's a permanent display. And so even though my gallery show, I think I had like over 400 visitors, and then in the office interior, 100 people work there every day, so it's a little bit different thing. And then I guess the work-wise, I mean, the gallery show, it's a lot of work to do, but it's definitely worth it. And then the office interior, I was actually licensing my photos. So after I submitted my photos, there was no work for me to do. So that's a big difference in if you look at it time-wise. So let's go to the gallery show a little bit more. And here's kind of my tips for if you're looking for a gallery to exhibit your work. It's the old slogans of real estate really fit well with the gallery selection, because it's the location that's very important. Like if you think about the people that you're gonna get there, or the crowds and etc. I mean, if it's in a tough to get location, I mean, you're gonna get less people. I mean, it's so obvious, but you gotta be really mindful of that. And then the promotion part, I mean, you really have to get your people, everybody you know, and talking about it, because there's a lot of competition. There's so many things going on nowadays. So many big promoted, concerts, etc., that it's hard to get people to attend. So you really gotta pay attention and use the social media and every channel you can to get people to attend your show. And then the galleries take their cut, so you really have to figure out your budget and keep in mind, if they take 40% or if they take 10% or whatever, it makes a huge difference with your budget. And then what's their responsibility? But I really noticing a trend that galleries don't do much for you. I mean, you really have to prepare to do everything yourself, and so at least keep an eye on everything, because I mean, that's my that's how my shows have gone. And then you gotta be present. Obviously, the opening night is big, and then keep visit your own show regularly and get people there at the same time. I mean, it's a good way to connect with people. And here's kind of a basic workflow for my gallery show. Image selection, I decided to have a very focused show. I was photographing dancers in New York City, and all those images, I had 22 of them on big aluminum sheets, I used those images for the show so that it was very concise. It had a very focused topic. And the material that I used was brushed aluminum. And the actual sheets are 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters. So that was a decisive factor for the size of the prints. And I have some topics here like computer workflow. I mean, it's usually nowadays pretty much everything can be upscaled to a pixel size that's big enough for these prints. I mean, I'll show some examples later, but I've used cell phone photos for this print. So, I mean, you do see the difference, but it's still good enough. So that's not really a problem anymore. But then one thing to keep in mind with the large-scale prints is the transportation, the logistics. You need people to help you. Like here on the right, I have the image of the actual hanging of the show, and it was tricky at some point. So you need to have lots of hands and people working with it. Here's a. Let's see if it's. I'm going to turn the sound off. Here's an actual UV printer at work that's printing here an aluminum sheet, and you can see that kind of a greenish light here. That's the UV light that's baking the ink into the top of the metal. So this was really interesting process. And what's good with UV printing is that it is a non-fading ink, even if you get a lot of sunlight on it. And you can print on metals and wood and glass and all kinds of materials. And these printers cost, I don't know, maybe $100,000 or something. So you really have to outsource them to be able to do them. I mean, this is not something that you can do at home, but I do a lot of A2 and A3 size prints at home to kind of get a feel of these prints before I get them printed in these facilities. Here's an example of a sheet layout that I used for my show, because the size of the sheets was 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters. Some of the prints were slightly smaller, and I used these designs to communicate how I wanted to get them printed. And here's a little bit about space planning. This is the actual gallery layout. It was about 112 square meters that I got to use all by myself, and I did a 3D model of the space. Here on the next slide, on the bottom, you can see a view from my model where I was placing my aluminum prints on the wall, and then on the top you can see the actual gallery once it was laid out. And I did this because I only had pretty much one afternoon to hang the prints, so I had to have a very good idea how to put them up. And I did switch a couple prints a little differently, but I didn't have time to just go there and start experimenting at that point. I mean, I really had to get it done in that afternoon. So it's a good way to experiment how to lay it out. And another way to do it, you can do it not in a computer and just make small prints and make a little like a cardboard model the place, and just start experimenting how you could how you could lay out the prints into the space. And let's see. Then a couple ideas that came with the show that I found very useful was that you somehow try to make your exhibit interactive. So I did this one aluminum sheet that I let people write on it and draw on it. So it became kind of a guest book. And there's my daughters on the left, actually, by that table, kind of with the pen, so you can see the scale of the table. And this was really a fun way to get people focused on the show and get them so that they became part of it. And then I had some gallery talks. I had some groups attending. Then I had some free postcards that had the date and the place and etc. on the postcard, so that people would spread the word. Obviously, I had some brochures of A4 prints with images of the actual works. And then I did a book. I can later show a little bit more about it, but where I kind of collected the images from the show and some extra ones to promote the exhibit. Here's actually the opening night. It's really important to get the crowd going and get people get a big opening, because that creates the buzz, and you get just more people to attend. And really, I found out that the opening night, I had probably about 200 people, and then the rest of the exhibit I got 200 more. So it was really like half of the crowd was there during the opening night. So it was a big deal, and it's good to focus on it and really promote it. Here's some photos of people attending the show, which is kind of fun. On the left of acting like they're the dancers, and on the right there's this red and red composition, which is interesting. Okay, let's go a little bit of before I continue, if you have any questions so far, go ahead and ask. Anything? Okay. Well, let's go forward. Here's the office interior project, and what really was different here, I had to really go deep into my archive and find the images, because of it was a pharmaceutical company that had 2 office floors that they wanted to use large-scale prints that act as acoustical panels to dampen the sound in the offices. And they had a committee that was voting. Actually, I saw the spreadsheet actually, where they voted on my images, that which ones they wanted, and then they were selecting 40 of them, and obviously, I had to submit more than that. So I think I submitted like 80 images, of which they selected the 40 that they wanted to get into their office. And at the end, it became like 2 themes. There's the nature floor, and then there was the city of Turku, which is my hometown. That was the other floor. And the sizes of the images, the heights were between 1.8 to 2.4 meters, and the width was 1.8 to 4.8 meters. And they were made out of 60 centimeter vertical panels that were butt joined together, as you can see on the print on the right. And the pretty much same workflow with the images. I used the third-party plugin in Photoshop called, I think it's Alien Skin Blow Up, to kind of upscale the images up to maybe 9,000 to 10,000 pixels. And that seemed to be enough for the, even though the prints were much larger. So you're never going to get 300 dpi, which is kind of the rule of thumb in small prints. But they use these patterns in their software when they're printing them. So you do get them sharp enough. I mean, when you go very close, you see the patterns, but it's kind of a painterly like. The actual panels are 4 centimeters thick rock wool, and then the print is on top of them. So that's where the acoustical dampening comes from. And here's a floor plan of one of the floors. You can see the kind of the seating areas, and then there's the desks and small meeting rooms in the middle, and the staircase. And this is the layout where my prints are placed in the floor plan. And this was kind of used to figure out like how to group the photos. So there were some, I had a interior designer who was working on this project, and he actually took my photos and he placed them here, and he forwarded them to the company that was paying for this and building this facility. And here's the second floor, which was the nature floor, and here's the third floor, which is the city floor in a sense. Here's examples of the on the bottom left is kind of my presentation, that how I submitted images for this. I just put a scale model next to the image and scaled them in the kind of the right proportion. And on the right, you can see the actual print, how it came out. I just visited this place, and it's not open yet for the people to work there. It's about 90% finished. So I'm gonna go again after it's totally finished, and I'm gonna shoot some more photographs of the place. Here's another one. On the left is the actual photograph of the place, and on the right is the 3D image, how it was visualized before the actual renovation. And there were some changes, and like I talked earlier about the artistic problems here, I'm going to show later. There are some bad samples. Thankfully, most of the images they look great. The actual colors were very good and all that, but there are some other problems with the installations. Like here are a dumb example that I think they're fixed by now. On the left is the actual office. You know, you see the piece of furniture in front of the image, and this was the case in many of them, which they'll probably figure out. I mean, I know the people who are working there actually want to see the image too, so it's not something that they want to have it like this. And then on the right is the 3D image of this print. Here's one of the best examples. I mean, it's one of my favorites. How it works together. It's a photograph that I took, I think, 2010 in the archipelago of a moose on a field. I think it was 4 a.m. with some fog, and it just fits perfectly into the space. Here's a detail of this image. You can see the kind of the bokeh area of the photo, how it looks when you go very close. It's kind of a painterly like, which is due to the software that they use when they actually are printing the photo onto the panels. And you can see the small gap on the right where the next panel starts. And then there's a little metal frame around the image, which makes it more of a because it's a place for people to work. It makes it last longer. That when people bump into the corner or something, it's gonna hold up well. Here's another image which is really interesting because of the fact that I took this in a couple of years back with my Samsung Note 3 cell phone. And on top of that, it was a vertical image that I sliced into a horizontal one. So if you think about the megapixels, it's really bad. Bad in the sense that I probably upscaled this from I don't know, maybe like 2,000 pixels on the long side into like 9,000. And obviously you don't get any more details when you use these softwares. So you can see on the right a little bit closer, and the image is kind of falling apart when you go very close. But then again, you're not gonna stare at this from 20 centimeters. You kind of look at it as a whole, and as a whole, it works out well. So this is one thing that I've learned really is like, if people like your photo, just use it. I mean, technically it might not be 100%, but if it's 90% there, just go for it, and usually good things come out. Here's some photos that I've taken during the Arcanum, and this was at the Glen Guy's cohort challenge last summer, I think. I can't even remember what was the challenge about, but anyway, this was one of the photos that I did some macro shooting or close-up shooting of a poppy flower, or poppy, not flower, but the actual pod in the summertime. And here's a general view of the office. You can see my prints are kind of all over the place. There's one on the right, and then there's one in the middle, and then on the left. Here's that bicycle image that I took also for an Arcanum challenge at some point last year, actually. Here's a castle image that I think I used like a long zoom to get kind of architectural, very geometrical look into it. And these are small conference rooms, actually. And on the right, you can see it's behind a glass, and then you enter the room, and it's size of the wall, the print. And here's another river shot from last fall, actually. That's on the kind of on the big space. And this is called a quiet room, I think. They'll have some furniture here, but it had this blue theme, and these were all winter photos, so it was a kind of an interesting feel to it because of the coldness of the prints. And here you can see a little bit of like what happens when you get other people take control of your images. You can see the clock in the middle. It's like, what were they thinking? I mean, why do you have to put a clock right there? It's like, anyway. And then the other one was on the bottom. They had to cut out about 30 centimeters from the bottom. So the human figure in the photo, you know, I'd like to see a little bit more ground on the under his feet actually. So it, thankfully he's not like cut in half, but it's close. So these things happen when you can't control it. Let's go forward. Here's another print. And here's on the right, you can actually see like when you go very close, like what it looks like. It has this painterly quality to it because there's just not enough pixels to make it sharp all the way when you go very close to it. And on the left, you can see how they are joined together. There's like a groove, and there's actually a metal plate that goes into this groove, and then the next panel joins it. So that's how it's held up together. And then this material, I think it's rock wool. There might be a little bit of like a paint on the sides, but it's rock wool inside. And then there's the thin layer where the actual print lays on top of it. And it has this, it's a little bit like a semi-gloss quality to it. I think it's because of there's some treatment also that keeps the dust and dirt away. So there's a little bit of a glossiness to it. And then here's another say what image. Like why did they have to put the electrical panel like right in the middle of the photo? You know, it's like, anyway. Thankfully, I don't have to share these photos with other people than you. And here's some interesting, like if you're thinking of about doing this, like what does it cost? And on the left is the gallery show budget, which was, I had 22 prints. The largest ones were 1.2 by 1.2 meters. I think the budget was around 4,000 euros. And cost per print maybe 200 to 300 euros. So the thing was that I had to put up the money up front myself. So it was kind of a risk, and I sold a lot of them, so I did get my money back and then some. So in that sense, it was definitely, if you just look at the business wise, it was good. But it was scary. I mean, it was like I kind of went into the exhibit thinking that if I don't sell any, I'm just happy to show them to people. And but thankfully that wasn't the case, because always when I shoot for the next one, somehow I have to figure out how to make it happen, how to get the money, and how to make it pay enough that I can keep on doing this. And then on the right here, I have the office interior. And the budget is really out of my league here because the company paid for it. I think it's about 70,000 euros. I don't actually have the figures. This is a guesstimate because it's trade secrets. What I did was I licensed my photos for their use, and they were like 125 euros per photo, which sounds like not much, but they did all the production and all that. So I figure out the cost per print was somewhere between 1,500 to 5,000 euros, which is something that I couldn't do on my own. I mean, so this was the only way for me to really do it, to license the photo. And the profit came out to me much bigger. So in that sense, it was really worthwhile doing. And obviously I use these images that I've just shown you to promote my work and hopefully get some more similar things to do. Here are some future projects that I'm working on right now. This is a 3D image of a print that is actually done already, but I haven't seen it live. It's for an advertising company, and this is made out of 5 separate panels, and it has those same acoustical qualities to it. And here's another one, which is for Courthouse Wall. It's actually kind of a office room for the lawyers and their clients to meet. And on the top right, you can see the actual image. They wanted a photo that's taken in the same building that where this photo will be displayed at. It's an historical building, and that's the staircase on the top right that I sliced this piece out of. And here's the same building, another room, and this is the same staircase but a different view. And I submitted these photos for them to select the images, and we'll see. I haven't heard back yet, like if they go for it. Here's another example, same thing, same project, where I used the one image that's on the top right, and you can see I made 2 panels out of them so that they kind of continue around the corner. And this is my presentation here, so thank you. And you can see from my grin here that these things are great to get on the wall and get people talking about it, so it's really a worthwhile. Let's see, I'm gonna stop now this presentation. I'm gonna go to the back to me. Let's see. Okay.
Well done.
Yep. Thank you. Here's on the behind me is the actual one of the aluminum prints, and you can see how the light plays with it when I move my hand. And then on that side, here's my first roll of film print that my sister did, and here's a Kozo paper. It's like a drum tight paper on top of a frame. So these are my kind of history of printing.
Okay, so were all of them done? All the ones in the office building, are they all done with the UV printer?
Yeah, I didn't actually witness when they did those, but I know the printing house that did it. So, and I know that I've done some aluminum prints actually in their facility. So I'm pretty sure, because there's a lot of light coming in from there's windows on both sides of the office building. So they really need to be they need to hold up well with the sunlight. So
with the aluminium print.
Say again?
Sorry. With the aluminium prints, do you print locally or do you import the prints from the US or?
So far I've used 2 printing houses, kind of local. I mean, the other one is like maybe 30 miles, 20 kilometers away, and the other one is just like right here in town. So, and I mean, at some point, a few years ago, there were very few places that you could do it at. But nowadays, there's a lot of printing houses that do the UV prints on aluminum. But it is really, I mean, one thing to be careful with is like aluminum is always different too. I mean, different manufacturers, and I use brushed aluminum because it gives a nice textural quality to it. Every batch is a little different, so it's really, you have to do like a sample or a prototype, and then you can really see how it reacts. Because I had some that I had to discard because they were way too dark, and it had to do a lot with the actual aluminum instead of the printing. It's just that it was darker than the other ones, so it is a little bit experimental.
Do they attach the aluminium to a backing? Is there like a wooden frame behind it?
It's actually it's an aluminum composite panel. So there's like I think like 0.3 millimeters of aluminum, then there's plastic, and then there's another layer of aluminum. So it's like a rigid panel. And I've tried it with pure aluminum, but what's the problem with it? The pure aluminum, it flexes quite a lot, even when it's fairly thick. And then it would need to have some kind of structure behind it again. It makes it way too heavy. So this composite panel is really a good way, because then the structure is structurally sound by itself. It doesn't need any framing. And I just attached aluminum channels behind it, so that becomes the way to hang it up. I can actually show it here. Here's the big piece. If I can do this without dropping, you can see these aluminum channels here. Oh, I'm too close, let's see. I'm gonna put it the other way around, let's see.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, we can see them now.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it back here. You can see the back of it. And these are like heavy, but not extremely heavy. I mean, it's like, I don't know, maybe 5 kilos or something. So, but they're a little different. I mean, each manufacturer does it a little differently. So you have to figure out what kind of glue I use, like this construction type of stuff, to make it
They
work.
look amazing.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
So do you add the channel onto the back of your print yourself, Vesa, or does it come already prepared?
Say again?
Do you add the channel onto the back of the printer yourself, or is it already prepared for the printer?
Yeah, you could get them to do it, but initially I did all them by myself, because I figured I wanted to learn the process, and so one time I had a problem with it. It came apart, and because I wasn't using big enough channels actually, and there wasn't enough of area to attach it. So especially with these large panels, some printing houses are not really aware like how they should do it. And the other thing is the cost. I mean, they might actually take a lot of money just attaching some channels there. That might actually cost as much as the printing itself. So that's another issue that I had.
How do they transport it? Are they easily damaged, or are they quite rugged?
It is fairly, especially these aluminum prints. They are kind of hard to transport. You have to be careful with scratching them, because aluminum, as you know, it's very malleable. So you can scratch it easy. I used the van when I had to move many pieces at once, and I just put layers of cloth between. And then when I move just one of these, I can use my old Volvo to transport it. Station wagon. It just fits into the back of the car.
How do you know how the print is going to look like? Because as you said, the surface is different and the metal is actually different.
Yeah.
From the manufacturer.
It's a little bit of experimental in that sense, that especially black and white, you can pretty much know what you get. But then when you start adding color or using color images with these aluminum prints, it is like I had to discard one print just because it didn't look right. And because basically I'm using UV printers where there's no white ink. So what it means that everything that's white is actually aluminum color in the print. Now they have they have printers that has white ink also, so it's more like a actual print. But I like that textural quality, so it is case by case, and you really have to do a prototype to figure out like how, if you're thinking of doing some very colorful, like a landscape on pure aluminum or on brushed aluminum, it's not going to come out like on paper or some other material. So maybe there's another option that you should use if you use very colorful images.
And I could also see that you were using both black and white and colors, like different, I don't know, different styles. So sort of same color or same type of black and white. Is that hard to get all of them nice?
Say, what was your question actually? The last?
It's to get them to sort of work together.
Oh yeah, it is.
You need to do a test print more or less on one of the big ones, but the images, they look different.
Yeah. I guess like I wasn't with the office building because I knew that they will be in different rooms. So I wasn't too concerned if one print would look a little bit different than the other because you don't see them together. In the gallery exhibit, it's more critical that you kind of have a similar look. But then again, I noticed also I had some color prints next to a black and white, and it was all right. So it's kind of I just plan it by eye and see what works. So, but you are losing a little bit control there. It's not like when I'm printing on my own on my Epson printer. I know exactly what I get. With these things, it's a little bit more. You have to have some faith, I guess.
And there's the upscaling. You said you could use quite small print. You still need to proof it or check it. Can you just go through your process and how you actually convince yourself that it's going to work on a big scale?
Yeah, because I've done it so many times. Nowadays, I just make sure that I have the kind of that looks good on the computer screen, as good as I can get the image itself. And then after that, I do the upscaling, and then I just trust the upscaling. I mean, there are some parameters that you can set in the upscaling, like how it's, because some upscaling sharpens it a little bit more and some less, but I usually use one of the defaults and just go with it, because what I've noticed, if it's a good image to start with, it's gonna hold up well. So I guess the original file is that you should be concerned with, to make it as good as you can make it, and then let the software take care of it. And I did upscale at some point. I think I used like a 12,000 pixels or something, and the printer called me back and said like their machine can't handle it, it's too big. So at that point I figure out like the maximum I use is between 8,000 to 10,000 pixels for upscaling, because they're using the printer houses use a special software like a RIP software that do the pattern on the dot pattern into the print. So they don't want to use like a huge image. They want to use a big image, but not like huge. So most of the time it works out right. I mean, the printers have advanced so much too that it still needs a good operator. I mean, there's differences with different print houses. That's for sure. But nowadays I trust them pretty much.
Do you use a specific print profile, or do you just treat each print as an individual thing?
What was amazing actually in the office project, when I compared my prints and my screen, what was on the wall, the colors were very spot on. I was actually amazed, because usually, for example, the blues are fairly tough to get. If you have a very nice blue that's fading away or something into a deeper blue or lighter blue, like this, if you get like a regular cheap, like €100 inkjet printer from the market, usually the blues they have problems with. But and so I was thinking that maybe I would have problems with with those kind of things. But I just used the sRGB color profile, which is the very basic one, and it worked out well. So I don't use any special profiles.
And do you have your monitor calibrated?
Yeah. I do, and it's kind of a, it helps a lot, but it's still not 100%. But at least you don't make like a huge mistake. It's like if you're close enough, I think I'm happy with it. So.
The size of the image versus the size of the rooms, do you have to worry about viewing distances or did people choose the images? You didn't really ever say which images went into what room or what.
Yeah. With the gallery show, I was a little bit concerned because I was actually selling the prints. So I was thinking of the size, like what size of an image people would put in their living room, just because the houses and usually you don't have that much free space on the walls, in the apartment buildings especially, and if you're living in the city, you have smaller places to live with. So that's when I was thinking that maybe that 1.2 by 1.2 meters is big enough. I shouldn't go bigger. But then with the office, I had a different mindset. I just thought that let's just cover the whole wall, make it as big as possible, and so it becomes, in some sense, it becomes interior element instead of a just print. But I was fine with that kind of idea.
I've got one more question to the upscaling process.
Sure.
Because if I understood you right, for example, I do use a 16 megapixel sensor. That would usually be good enough quality that I could still print it like this big, like 1 by 2 meters, like you had in the office space there with the right upscaling software.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you don't really, if you're somewhere around, 5,000, 6,000 pixels, I don't know if you really need upscaling at all, because the print house will use, like I said, their own software on top of it, so that might be enough.
Okay.
But sharpening is another issue, but that's really with these large prints, it's a little different than small prints. So I just kind of use these default settings pretty much with the sharpening. When I do my own inkjet prints, like in A3, A2, A4 size, I make it so that on the screen it actually looks way too sharp, but when you print it, it looks great. But with these large prints, I'm not as concerned about it, because if you go very close, it's not going to be sharp anyway. So I don't want to spoil especially let's say like a sky or something. If you over sharpen, you get a lot of artifacts and stuff. So I don't do it.
So when you say that you over sharpen on the screen for a print, do you actually have artifacts on the screen at that point?
In some cases, it does look a little bit like that, yeah.
That's one of the things I've been.
It is a little bit too much, and I wouldn't do it if I would just show it on my screen. But because of the print and the paper and everything kind of just meshes together on the print a little bit more, it works out well. It looks great.
Okay.
Well, I think I'm going to stop the broadcast now and stay on, hang on, and we'll talk a little bit more. But thank you for watching my presentation, and hopefully you get some tips, and if you have any comments, questions, shoot me an email or a G+ message or whatever, and let's figure out what I can do for your print. Okay, say hello and bye-bye, everybody.